Got in my backyard at the great backyard.
Hi, I'm Frank May, the Great Backyard. I'm here to talk about above ground pools. Not very specifically, but to empower you as the consumer to make good choices as you're contemplating what kind of pool is suitable for your family. There are three major filtration systems which are offered on above ground pools. In this region, there are primarily two. We're going to concentrate our efforts on those two. The first is a cartridge filter system. That's what we're looking at here. The benefits of a cartridge filter system is they're very much more efficient than a sand system. They don't require water to be dumped from the pool to clean the filter. They filter particles much smaller than sand. So there's this vast difference, about 10 times difference in the size of the particulate that the filtration media can actually extract from the water. The other benefit in a cartridge filter system is that there is a meaningful gain in having a 2-speed pump with a cartridge filter system. We find that gain, that efficiency profit is lost when it's put on sand. And the reason is when a pump is run at a lower speed, it pulls much less power, it moves less water. However, the resistance in the sand filter from the sand itself and the multi-port valve restricts water movement to the point that there's no meaningful turnover in the body of water. Whereas you couple it with a cartridge filter system and run it at a low speed continuously, you'll save a lot of money on electricity. It'll cut it about 2/3 to run it with a cartridge filter. You'll have it filtered more clearly and cleanly than you will sand. However, there are environments where a cartridge filter is not advisable. Those environments are pools with a lot of tree coverage, especially trees that drop seeds, clutter up the pool quickly, drop leaves into the pool, because a cartridge filter will clog up and have to be cleaned. And in order to clean a cartridge filter, you have to remove the element. So you have to actually take the filter apart, you have to remove the element, you have to hose it off between the pleats. This is an example of a cartridge filter. So when you clean it, you're going to take a hose with high pressure and you're going to go between the pleats. So right now, this system is running at a low speed. It's pulling very few amps. If we want to crank it up, say we're putting chemicals in the water and we want to turn the water over, or there's been a storm and it's cloudy and we just need to move that body of water quickly, this pump right here comes with an on-off switch and it toggles between the high and the low speed. So I'm going to reach down here and I'm going to turn it over to a high speed. It goes to the off position, pops over to the high speed. About 2/3 more water is now moving through this filter. It's not appropriate with a cartridge filter to use that at all times. It's just waste. Which brings us to a consideration about pumps. The way that the marketplace works on pumps is they sell by horsepower. Honestly, horsepower is fairly meaningless on an above ground pump because the horsepower rating is uprated. Okay? So what you need to look at if you're going to really dissect that pump is how much power it pulls and how much water it moves. It's an entirely different equation from the sticker that's on the pump itself. Another little thing to look at when you're shopping for pumps or considering a pump is, does it have an on-off switch? This is important because when you're doing maintenance on the pool, you're doing manual vacuuming, you're covered with water, you pull your arms out of the water, you're dripping with water, and if you don't have a switch, you're reaching over to the outlet and you're having to unplug the pump to turn it off. And on a sand filter or a cartridge filter, when it comes to cleaning time, you have to turn it off. On a pump with a switch, obviously, all we got to do is reach down and flick the switch over rather than interacting with the outlet itself. So now I'm standing above a sand filter. As you can see, the body of the tank itself is substantially larger than a cartridge filter. This particular one is a 26-inch sand filter with about 300 pounds of sand. Now the way that a sand filter works is water passes through a vertical post, it trickles out into the sand, passes through the sand, it's gathered back into the system with these things called laterals. They're like fingers at the bottom that gather the water back into. One of the difficulties or challenges in sand filter design is that a filter can be considered clogged, thus driving the pressure up and needing to be cleaned sooner than the media itself is inundated with debris. The reason is because that top 3 to 5 inches of sand is doing the heavy lifting and the filtration, whereas once it passes through that, it's getting into clear sand, which means that you may need to backwash it or disturb that sand to flush out the grime more frequently. So the way a sand filter works is the water passes through a vertical post in the middle of the filter, and it spills out over the sand, and it trickles down through the sand, and it's gathered back into the system by what are called laterals. They're little fingers at the bottom of the tank. The challenge with the sand filter, and the reason that our tanks are not round but more cylindrical, is because the top part of the sand is really doing the heavy lifting and the filtration. It's going to gum up the fastest because the water with the grime is coming into contact with that top layer and it's being filtered out there. You know when to clean the filter when the pressure gauge shoots up to about 15 to 20. It's time to actually clean the filter. This is one of the pros and the cons to sand filtration. Cleaning is a breeze, but cleaning wastewater. It's especially important if you have an in-ground pool with salt. We do not recommend salt for above ground pools. It's very important. We can talk about that in the work-free package. In order to backwash a pool, the pump has to be turned off. This multi-port valve is rotated to the backwash position. The pump is then turned on again down here, and water flushes out of this port right here. The water's going to come out dirty. You're going to actually watch it until the water clears up, at which point you're done. You turn the pump back off, you put it back on filter, bada bing, bada bam, bada boom. So cleaning it requires no tools, but you're dumping a bunch of water out of the pool. Anywhere between 300 and 500 gallons of water. Again, the beauty and the drawback to a sand filter is right here in the multi-port valve. The beauty is that changing the function of the filter is allowed in the unit itself. You can actually reposition the valve to do various things. You can vacuum to waste, you can put it on rinse, you backwash. All this is done very easily, turning the pump off, rotating the position, turning it on. However, the drawback to a multi-port valve is that because it goes into a valve network, you're losing about 20% of the water flow rate because of the resistance in the valve itself. That's one of the reasons why we do not recommend running a pump at a low speed on a sand filter. That and just the resistance of the large body of sand that it's got to pass through. So to sum it all up, as you're considering sand versus cartridge, we recommend a cartridge filter for an open environment where a lot of debris is not going to be getting into the pool, because it's going to give you the highest efficiency, the greatest rate of filtration. However, if you're in a situation where you have trees close to the pool or you know debris is going to be blowing in continuously, we would certainly recommend that you go towards sand because of the ease of cleaning.
Frank grew up in the pool business, so he knows pools inside and out. And he has a lot more to tell you. Be sure to watch our related videos about the structure of an above-ground pool and pool liners right here on the Great Backyard channel.
I've enjoyed talking to you about above-ground pools and the various things to consider before you purchase. I hope this video has been helpful. I'm Frank May from the Great Backyard.